First, what the Farage with debanked Brexit broker Nigel Farage. And in a significant admission of journalistic incompetence, the BBC has today apologised to Nigel for inaccurately reporting the motivations behind the closure of his Coutts bank account. The BBC originally reported that Coutts closed the account after it fell below the financial threshold required, but have now been forced to issue apologies via the BBC News chief executive Deborah Turness and business editor Simon Jack after Farage's political views were exposed as the real reason behind his sudden account closure. Cue awkward scenes on BBC's News at 6 tonight.
Head of NatWest, which owns Coutts Bank, has already apologised to Mr Farage. Now the CEO of BBC News has written to him to say sorry, and the journalist behind the story has tweeted his apology. Simon Jack tweeted today that the information he based his story on had been from a trusted and senior source, but he added it turned out to be incomplete and inaccurate.
Well, Nigel, there you go. You have accepted the apology, but you don't feel this is the end of the matter.
Well, Dan, I mean, an apology, a public apology from the BBC is a very rare bird indeed.
Oh, yes.
It's the kind of thing that happens, sort of twice a decade. So, look, I got the Simon Jack tweet, and I got a very nice letter from Deborah Turness, someone that I know and respect, who is, of course, the CEO of BBC News. And it was interesting. I mean, I was very pleased to get the letter. I like her as a person, but there was a clue inside the letter. And as your screen scrolls, you will see that they went back to the senior source and double-checked the story before Simon Jack, the BBC business editor, published it. Now, a couple of things, I think, to say about that. The first is, Simon Jack was right to report the story. No question about it. If you're given a story by a senior source about an ongoing, big, current affairs matter, I'd cover it, you'd cover it, Simon Jack covered it. No argument about that whatsoever. The only question would be, when I revealed the truth of all of this last Tuesday and Wednesday, why were they so slow to apologise? And that's why over the weekend, I went up to the DG, I went up to the Director General, Tim Davie, who, by the way, his office treated me with absolute courtesy, and they replied, pretty quickly, so well done them. Simon Jack, I think, might have apologised a little bit earlier. It's taken the best part of a week, but he has. So that's over and done with. Everybody in journalism is prone to making mistakes. They happen. We get bad information. You do. Everyone does.
Absolutely.
But that revealing comment that we checked, and they still say go ahead with the story, now points the finger firmly back at the NatWest Group. I'm going to speculate, Dan, as to what happened. On the evening of the 3rd of July, at a big awards dinner, Simon Jack was sitting next to the blessed Dame Alison Rose, Chief Executive Officer of the NatWest Group. It would be impossible for them not to have discussed my situation. All right? The checking was a phone call the next morning, which would have gone something like this. Alison, we had a few glasses of wine last night, and it was all great fun. What you said, is it okay to publish? She says yes, and at 9 a.m. that following morning, July 4th, Jack rings me with these accusations. And I think we deserve to know the truth. And we deserve it, not just because NatWest has 19 million customers. We deserve it because we bailed them out after their greed and stupidity back in 2008. And we, every viewer watching this, we jointly still own 39% of it. And I promise you, I will get the absolute truth of this.
Because, Nigel, let's just follow your theory through. And I think while we cannot say for sure that Rose is the source, it obviously makes a lot of sense. There's a lot of circumstantial evidence that you've just outlined. So if that is the case, are you saying that Rose would have been deliberately misleading the BBC because of what she knew?
Somebody inside the NatWest Group deliberately misled the BBC. Someone did that. We need to find out who it is. And then once we deal with that, we move on to the far more important issue that Nigel Farage is banking, which is what is happening to, I think now, tens of thousands of people, especially men and women, running small businesses who, and I can't even tell you the heartbreaking emails that I'm getting coming in from people all over the country, startups being literally strangled at birth by the banks, others with impeccable records, but because they take cash, because they run a window cleaning business or a fish stall, the bank don't want to know them. We bailed these people out. Our taxes went up. They've now closed the branches, closed the ATM machines, don't want anyone that deals in cash. And worse still, Dan, they are starting to monitor the social media of every single one of us. If ever there was a war between freedom of the individual and liberty, an authoritarian state political control, this is it. Do you know, in some ways, I've thought to myself over the last couple of days, this is more important even than the Brexit battle.
Wow.
This is absolutely fundamental.
Yeah, because you're deplatformed from society, aren't you, if you lose your bank account? So the question is, Nigel, what needs to be done? Because obviously you've got the Conservative Party making all the right noises. We have Kwasi Kwarteng, the former Chancellor, on the Superstar panel tonight. We'll be talking to him about this after 10 o'clock. He doesn't seem to want there to be a change in the law. But is that what you're saying has to happen?
He is wrong. Wrong, wrong, wrong. There needs to be a change in the law at a whole variety of levels. And the ultimate, where we need to get to in the end, is that every individual in this country must have the right to a bank account and the right to establish their own business and their own business account. That is the ultimate end goal. All roads lead to that, because increasingly in our society, having bank facilities as important as having water and having heating. It has become an absolutely essential service. You know, 40 years ago, wage packets were in cash, everything was in cash. Those days have gone. I want, of course, for us to preserve cash. I back the GB News Don't Kill Cash campaign, 100%. But reality is reality, and we're living, 90% plus of the population now buy and sell things online. You have to have access. You have to have facilities. So the law needs changing. And Kwasi, the anti-money laundering laws designed to stop the international drug smuggling gangs from laundering their money, according to Forbes, for every £1 that is stopped and found and caught, the compliance cost is £100. And the victims of that are the innocent tens of thousands who are being closed down. And I got to tell you, don't underestimate me on this. I've got a new crusade. I have picked this up.
Look out. Look out, establishment. But Nigel, it would be popular though, wouldn't it? This would be a popular law for Rishi Sunak to force through before the election. And God help him, he needs a popular policy.
Whether things are popular or not can depend on the short-term moods of public opinion. There's a more fundamental point than what's popular. It's what's right.
Yeah.
What is right? I do not want to live in communist China. I don't want to live under a social credit system where the way that you get back into an active part of society is to throw yourself prostrate on the floor and apologize for your sins against the state. I don't want to live like that. And I said at the start of this, if they can do this to me, they can do it to you. I meant it.
Yeah, well, they did do it to me, HSBC. And I wasn't brave enough to speak up about it, and now people are. Congratulations, Nigel. It has been one of the most significant victories against the British establishment in recent history, of course. Brexit, which you were a large part responsible for, being the other.